Hi everyone! So my blush, bronzer, and complexion is on because I kind of wanted to do a makeup look that matches this blush. I haven't done blush like this in a while and I really wanted to mess around with it, so I was like, okay. I have not filmed with this palette yet, but I did get Gemini II right here during the July. They had like their birthday sale in July, so everything was 30% off. So the bundle with Gemini 1 and 2 was already at a discount, like you already save money buying both, and then you get a further 30% off that. So I've been wanting both palettes for a while. I used to have the OG Gemini and then I parted ways with it. So yeah, I have them both. So I'm gonna start off using Gemini 2 because that's the one I'm more excited for. So I'm going to start off, I think I'm going to start off with Lovesick here, and I'm going to just use that as kind of the darker shade. I thought I washed this brush off, but maybe I didn't. So if you see some color contamination, just ignore it. And I forgot to use eye primer, but my eyelids are very moisturized. So my biggest problem when I'm priming my eyelids is I really just need to increase the adhesion of the shadows over everything else. I'm just going to start blocking out the eyeshadow shape. Okay, so that's a good starting point. And I'm not going to connect the section, I'm going to leave that open to make my eyes look a little more open. I'm going to use the lighter shade. The shade is this. I do really like how this palette has no silly bone colored shades, but maybe like one lighter shimmer would have been fine. But I think for this video I will end up pulling from like my highlighter collection for my inner corner highlight, because I really genuinely think I look really bad if I don't have an inner corner highlight. Generally speaking, my biggest issue with melt in the historically has always been those shimmers, so we'll see. And then I'm going to also go ahead and blend this warm eyeshadow into the blush. And if you see a dark spot here, that is the eyeshadow sticking to a pimple. I have a pimple there. It's not the shadow, it's my skin. I know it's like not the greatest look ever, but oh well, sorry. So now I'm going to take this shimmer shade here. I'm going to save the darkest shade. I'm going to save that darkest shade for another look, but one of the shimmers is here. I'm going to take that and I'm going to kind of place it closer to my lash line. We'll see how it goes. I'm a little nervous just because of my sordid history with melt shimmers. I'm just going to kind of dump it right here. And I've never really ever figured out the best way to use them either. Like when I had Muerte, I felt like a finger or a brush didn't make a difference. It just didn't look good either way. I'm gonna use this super dense flat brush that I picked out of a Korean palette. That worked a little bit better, but see, it's also very thick feeling and it's very difficult for me to blend. See if I can kind of disperse it with a finger. It feels very thick on my eyelid, like I can definitely feel I have product there. It's like if I don't apply a lot, it doesn't really show up as shiny. Yeah, I just feel like Melt's shimmers are super inconsistent, and that's generally why I haven't bought from Melt or used Melt's eyeshadows in a really long time. I almost am glad that this palette is so matte heavy, because if it had been shimmer heavy but all the shimmers were kind of really thick feeling like this, I would have been kind of disappointed. And I mean, it's okay, like it's shiny, but it does feel a little bit more on the satin side by my standards. I mean, at least it shows up. Like, the Muerte shimmers were so hard, you have to like dig your brush in and you get like nothing, so at least this I get something out of it. You hear it in the background, Gates is snoring. That's about as good as I think I'm gonna get that shimmer. It looks, honestly, this look overall looks pretty good. The mattes definitely kind of carry it, so overall I can't really complain. So I'm gonna go and dig into a highlighter for my shimmer because I need some kind of inner corner highlight. I can't just not have one. And I'm going to use Solar from Shiseido. I've been using this one a lot recently. It's really nice. The only thing is that mine, I guess because I stored it on its side for so long, it like falls out. If I tilt it, it'll fall out into my hand. And it's discontinued, so I can't really replace it either. But I'm just going to pop this on the inner corner. It has a really nice sparkly appearance, kind of like it reminds me of Fractal Freesia or Diamond Bomb, but just even more glittery. Definitely very luxurious feeling, as is befitting Shiseido's higher price range. I swear, half of my makeup collection, it's makeup I bought frantically when it was on the verge of being discontinued because I waited too long. Okay, that's about as good as it's gonna get, and then I'm gonna take some on my finger. Really pretty, and I'm just going to dab it on the center of my eyelid just for a little bit of extra dimension. It just kind of gives off this really glossy appearance. Okay, so that's going to be this eye look complete. As you can see, I only used 3 shades in the palette plus an additional highlighter. Honestly, it turned out really pretty. I'm enjoying it so far. I'm going to finish off the rest of my makeup and I'll be right back. Okay, so this is going to be my finished makeup look. Very, very red, very, very pink. I don't know, I like how I look in red and pink eyeshadow, so here we are. So I really didn't have much left to do because I'd already done my blush and my bronzer and everything, but I just threw on some lashes, got some highlighter on, got my lips on, and we are good to go. I used the Jaclyn highlighter in the shade Iced. It's alright. It does show a lot. I find with these putty-like highlighters, they do show texture, and I do have a lot of bumps that are healing, so this, of course, is going to emphasize all of those. So it's hard to find a highlighter that doesn't do that, but I do find putty highlighters in general kind of can do that more. On this cheek where there is not as much texture, you can see it looks really glassy, very pretty, and of course on my nose it's really nice. And then for the lips, I used the Chantecaille Lip Veil in Ruby. This was for the Lunar New Year of last year, and Chantecaille had a 25% off sale, so I went ahead and got it. I've been eyeing it for a really long time. I also did add some brown pencil liner from Clio just to the outer corners to kind of strengthen the wing effect of my eyeshadow, and then I used a brush to just smudge it so it blended into the very dark red eyeshadow that I have on. So that's kind of just all I did, and then I put some liquid brush liner on my inner corners just to sharpen them up and add some definition. I'm using Doe Lashes Fuckboy Repellent version 2.0, which is my favorite version of that lash. I cannot really wear 1.0, it's just too thick, too much, but the 2.0, it looks really pretty. I like it. It's like a more intense version of Ardell 815, which is one of my favorites. And that's going to be this look. So I hope you guys enjoyed this. Hope you guys enjoyed this first look. I'll be back for look number 2. Alright, you'll see the next look in a couple of seconds. Hi everyone, back for look number 2. I think I got all my makeup off last night, but there might be some stray mascara I didn't quite take off, so if you see a little bit of darkness, it's just makeup, because I'm bad. I want to focus on these 2 shades over here, 3 shades, and see if I can pull something together with that. So I'm going to start off with this shade right here. I want to see how well it blends out. I'm going to try and apply it lightly using a fluffier brush, and we'll just see what happens. This is just from the Spectrum collections. It's that set that was half off at Ulta. It was a really good deal. So that applied nicely. I got the shape I wanted. I kind of was able to use one shade to create dimension. There may be an incoming storm, so hopefully if there's thunder it doesn't pick up on the mic, but we'll see. I'm using a slightly less tacky eye primer today since the mattes in the first look I did were pretty easy to work with, so I don't think I need a tackier base. So I think I just used the Jaclyn one, and that one's like super not tacky, so it's really good for kind of aiding and blending. I feel like I got the outer angles of eyeshadow not perfectly symmetrical, but this always happens to me since my eyes are 2 different shapes. I'm going to switch to a smaller brush and I'm going to use that darker shade, and it's going to go just kind of tucked in there. This is inherently just a darker palette, so I predict all of my looks are going to be some level of smokiness, but that's just what this palette hands you. I'm trying to stick within the boundary of eyeshadow I established previously. No fallout so far, which is appreciated. I'm gonna switch to an even smaller brush now so that I can go into the darker shade and be more precise about where I'm putting it. So I'm pulling the eyeshadow more out. I don't want my eyes to look too upturned for today's look. And I'm just going to take a little bit more green and kind of lower the angle of the eyeshadow on this eye. Yeah, that's a little bit better. Okay, and then I'm just going to take a little bit of the green. I want to make sure that there's some green on the lower lash line. These are definitely very like melt greens. I feel like when it comes to greens, Melt definitely has a very specific type of green they tend to go for. Okay, so now I'm gonna go into the shimmer, and so it's as you can see, it's a very, very dark tone shimmer right here. So I'm just gonna use my finger first because I'm not really I don't need to be super precise today, I don't think, so I hope just the finger is okay. It feels alright. We'll see how shiny it ends up being. Yeah, I mean, like I said, I don't really feel like Melt's shimmers are the best. This one feels a lot less thick than the red, but it's still not necessarily blowing me away, which I was kind of expecting at this point. And then I'm just going to use a brush to add some finesse. This one has a bit more of a sparkly effect to it because it does have other colors of shimmer inside. So I am glad that there's only two. If there had been more and they had all been like this, I think I would have been disappointed for sure. Whenever I use palettes like this that everything is pretty dark, I do often end up having to go back into some kind of setting powder or powder foundation just to kind of touch up the edges. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm just using a setting powder here, not some kind of master blender, so it does really help to kind of tone down any harsh edges for me to just use a setting powder and just touch everything up. Definitely don't be afraid to do this if you're having trouble with your eyeshadow. See how much fallout I give myself? It's not really showing up super well, it doesn't lay down super well, it is very, very dry, but at the very least there are some sparkles coming off, so it gives like a very mild sparkly effect on my lower lash line. This is definitely not a really great shimmer, not really getting great results out of it. Okay, all I'm missing now is some kind of inner corner highlight, so I'm gonna go for something green. Surprise, surprise. And for that, I'm gonna use none other than my notorious Golden Mint from Becca. I love this shade. This is just so pretty, and I miss Becca. Would happily sacrifice Morphe to bring Becca back. At least not all of the products are gone. Like, at least Estee Lauder threw us a bone with that. And that's gonna be this look complete. I'm gonna put on some lashes and then I'll be right back with the rest of my face on, and we're gonna just move on to the third look. I'll discuss the second look really quick and then we'll move on to the third look. Okay, so it's been like half an hour since I finished my makeup. I was kind of letting the thunder calm down just a little bit so it didn't like overpower my microphone, so I'm a little bit shiny. You know, when it rains in the summer in the South, it doesn't feel better afterwards. It feels the same temperature, but now the humidity has spiked. Of course, so now the inside of the house is super sticky, so my face has a lot of moisture clinging to it, but we'll just run with it. But this is the finished look. I tried to keep everything as kind of grungy and low-key as possible, so I went really light on the blush, and then I just have like kind of a more grungier lip tone. Not something I wear very often, but yeah. I do like how this looks. The shimmer, you know, it's not awful, it's just really not what I was expecting, and it's certainly not something you'd want if you pay full price for a Melt palette. You definitely want really great performance. That being said, the mattes have so far been pretty easy to work with, so I'm at the very least not getting the same experience I got with Muerte, which was such a shame because I would have loved to hold on to Muerte, but I ended up selling it. But this has so far proved me wrong with Muerte, and I'm very happy about that. So, you know, I don't know if I'm going to continue to buy from Melt in the future. I'm mildly interested in brunette, but it's just not something I have budget to be buying something that I'm only mildly interested in. And at this point, I feel like I would just rather see Melt come out with like an all matte palette or something, because clearly they are having issues with their shimmers. They might as well as just focus on mattes, or I don't know. Just feels like every single palette they come out with, the shimmers are different. It's like they're trying to get it right and they just haven't gotten it yet. I mean, you know, I don't have really many complaints. At least I got this on sale and it is quite nice. The colors are fun. The greens are definitely very unique, very Melt flavored. So, you know, there's that. I have Doe Fuckboy Repellent 2.0. It's just kind of one of the few pairs of lashes I've opened right now, so I'm just using those. I did put on some lower lash mascara. I have some black wing liner just for some definition, and then I also put that black liner on my inner corners to sharpen up the inner corners of my eyes. For looks that are as deep as this, having some kind of inner corner liner really helps to just kind of, you know, add some definition. And then for my lips, I haven't used this in forever, and I'm amazed it's still good. I mean, I guess I shouldn't be too surprised, and I should expect it to be good for long because high-end lipsticks generally last. But I'm using the Pat McGrath Luxe Trance Lipstick in Leatherette 432. So it's going to be this shade right here. As you can see, I pretty much almost never use it just because it is a tone that I don't use very often. So it's a shame that these are gone. I really hope she brings back some or makes a similar kind of formula someday. So I'm going to sign off, and that's going to be it for me. You're going to see the third look in a couple of seconds from here. Hi everyone, I'm going to be back to do the third and final look using Gemini II. And as I said in the previous looks and at the beginning of the video, I'm going to try and make it so that this look integrates both the green and the reds in this palette. A little nervous, but we'll see how well it goes. So I'm going to start off with, yeah, I'm gonna go start off with this dark shade here. I don't think I used this in the other look very much yet, so we'll go ahead and use this shade today. And I think this will work best with some of the lighter, warmer shades on this side of the palette, and that way we can kind of have some nice contrast going there. I am wearing the NARS Smudge Proof Eye Base today, just kind of seeing if that base will work better with these shadows. Although so far the mattes have been pretty good to work with. And I'm just using a brush from Spectrum, and I'm gonna kind of keep this shade closer to my lash line because I want to blend it out later. I really like the pretty floral imprints on these pans. Now I'm going to use a larger, fluffier brush, and I'm going to go into this shade here on the far end, and I'm going to start using that to blend things out. And I'm going to focus this mostly on the inner part to add that really nice kind of bright warmth to the look. Yeah, like that. You can see how it's starting to add a different kind of, it's changing the vibe of the look overall for sure. Yeah, I like how that looks. And then I'm going to go into this shade here, just right over, and I'm going to use that on the outer part. And then I'm going to go back into Boy Mum, which is that dark shade I used earlier. And I'm going to start to add more. Kind of like that. So it's like a smoky eye, but then with just some warmth on the outer part. I like how that looks. I'm going to switch to a smaller blending brush, and I'm going to go into the next darkest shade here. I feel like this row of pinks could have been condensed into maybe 4. There's 5. I don't think we needed all 5. I think we could have had 4, and then we could have added more to the green side or had a lighter colored shimmer. It's just my opinion. I don't think we needed both Bella and Ladylike. I think those two are redundant. And then of course, you know, these two shades next here are also just, I don't think they all needed to be there. That was the biggest reason I didn't really pick this up as soon as I didn't pick this up so quickly, was just because I was like looking at the shades and a lot of it just felt kind of redundant. I didn't want to pay full price for something where it felt like a lot of the shades were similar. They're all very beautiful tones, but considering that this is a palette with 10 shades, there's not really room for excess similarity. Having a blast with these mattes though, they really just work so well. I'm gonna take a brush that I used to apply powder to my face and just kind of tap out the end. I'm now gonna go into the darkest red. I don't remember if I've used this in my first look or not. It's this shade right here. And I'm going to use that at the outer corner. I really want to add just some really smoldering depth right back there to match with the really dark, grungy olive tone that I used across my eyelid area. And these are layering on top of each other super well. I'm having a lot of fun kind of really being able to carefully build up the depth in the tones the way I want to. So that just really built up the depth in a way that I really like, and I feel like these shades just were so easy to use, blended really well into each other, so I am super happy right now. And now I'm just going to take more of that first initial bright coral shade I used and really just make sure that the inner corners are nice and well blended. I'm going to go ahead and pull this into the inner corner as well. It's not necessarily like a bright inner corner highlight shade, but it'll still just add some color there. I'm going to keep this as an all matte look today. Alright, and that's going to be this finished eye look. Really deep and smoky. I really like it. I did notice that the greens in this palette, both of them, I kind of have trouble building them up to look just as dark in pan versus the reds and pinks having, and like the kind of the coral pink red side did not have problems with that. So the greens are kind of I would say kind of a smidge below everything else in terms of performance, but I still definitely got results I'm satisfied with, and I'm still really happy with how this looks. So I'm going to finish up the rest of my makeup and I'll be right back for the finished look. Okay, this is gonna be my finished look. And as you can see, I went with pretty much an all matte face of makeup. I did use the Clinique Cheek Pop in Fig Pop, which has a very natural glow to it since it is kind of more of a hard pressed baked powder, so that's why my cheeks do have a somewhat natural glow. It's just from the blush. I don't actually have highlighter on. I don't even have highlighter on my nose, and I don't have inner corner highlight either, which is like such a surprise. I'm like not used to it at all. I did put on some brown eyeliner, but I don't really know if that was necessary. I don't really think it contributed anything to the look, so I don't really think that was like my best idea. I just have mascara on today. I wasn't really feeling like putting on false lashes, and I thought it would be good, you know, just occasionally you guys can see what things look like with just my natural lashes on. I did blend out my blush with the Peiliee Morning Blush here. I have it kind of on the inside of my face and just blending things out, so that way the Clinique Cheek Pop, I do really like it, but sometimes I have trouble blending it out. And then for my lips, I line my lips and then I use the Peiliee Ink Velvet in, gosh, what shade? 23, and it is this shade right here. The what's on the outside of the bottle is honestly pretty accurate to what it looks like on the lips. This is not really super matte. As you can see, there is kind of a sheen to it still, but it is very blurring. I still prefer my Roman formulas, but at the same time, this is still nice. It's better to apply a little and then blend it out, blot it out with your finger, as opposed to trying to apply a full layer, because it is kind of slippery feeling. I like how it turned out. I don't do all matte looks often. I should do them more often, but yeah, whenever I do all matte looks, I feel like they always kind of turn out some variant of smoky, just because I feel like that's the most flattering all matte look on me. But the matte green kind of is already kind of starting to show a little bit of creasing despite me using an eye primer, so it's not like super obvious, but I can definitely see it looking in the mirror. But yeah, I definitely see some mild creasing, which kind of is consistent with my experience with melt shadows. They're not like the greatest on the planet, so of course, as usual, I'm glad I got these on a discount. I mostly wanted it for collector's purposes than anything else, so if you're getting it wanting like really high quality shadows, I don't necessarily think it's worth the money, especially full price. Other than that though, they did blend really easily, especially the corals and the pinks on the left side of the palette, so I will say I was very pleasantly surprised overall. I've had pretty bad experiences with melt shadows, so this is a step up, but considering how expensive Melt tends to price their stuff at, it's still not as good as other high-end brands that I prefer, so that's just kind of how I feel about Melt in general, which is why I don't usually buy Melt on release anymore. But I still really enjoyed playing with this palette. I still really like all three looks that I created, and I do find this color layout that they had here to be pretty unique, so I had a lot of fun. I will be doing 3 looks 1 palette with Gemini 1 at a later date. It's not as high a priority as this one was, but in the meantime, that's gonna be it for this video. I hope you guys enjoyed these 3 looks, and I'll be back in the next video, so I'll see you guys then. Bye bye!